Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live at the Archive. This is naturalist Virginia Delgado Martinez, and today we're going to talk all about mine lights. All right, but before we dive deep into that, some folks may or may not know that Black Diamond is historic for its coal mining district. Back in the mid 1800s, right around the gold rush, people came here for different reasons, looking for shiny black rocks to fuel California. California was more interested in having railroads, boats, factories, but in order to have that, we needed energy, and they got that right here in the hills of Antioch. Now, last episode, you probably talked a little bit about all the kinds of people, or heard a little bit about all the kinds of people that came here. Those folks came from all over the world, and they had a dangerous job. They had to go deep, deep underground, sometimes 800 feet down inside the earth to retrieve the coal. But how did they do that? Well, some might argue the most important tool they had to help them was a pickaxe. But I'm going to argue that their most important tool was actually their light source. So I'm going to go and pull out some light sources that they may have used back in the 1800s and the early 1900s. And I'll leave it up to you if you think it was actually safe or not. All right. So the first one I want to show you is this guy. So this Humble tool was something that we see often in pictures, um, especially in the 1800s. And I'll give you guys a look. It has a point up here. It has a little area to hold a candle. This is a candle that we have, similar to the kinds they would use before. And this sharp area is hooked. Now we see miners use this and by shoving this pointy side inside the rock, and so while they're working, it's held up by the mine itself. All right. I've also seen people use this hook, this sharp part right here, on their hat, and so they can, have their hands free while they're mining coal. So this is one of the earlier tools that they had. All right. So I guess you're probably thinking, how is this safe? Well, I understand because this is still an open flame, and after all, coal is flammable. So if a piece of coal would fall on this, they'll probably be in deep trouble, lighting the mine on fire. Another thing that we do know is that they also had methane to deal with. Old pieces of coal release methane. So even with a big, like an open flame like this, you can potentially cause an accident as well by lighting the air on fire in a way. But they knew this. Miners actually call the gases emitted from mines fire damp. So let's move on to the next tool they had. So this is kind of a remake of an old tool. This is called a bug light. And a bug light is a very simple tool that folks had. To show you, it's pretty much just a tin can with a hole in the bottom where you can place or stick the candlestick in the middle. Now this is a really cool tool because it's simple enough to use. It has a nice handle so you can kind of hang it up, or you can use it to navigate in the mine. And it also is kind of like a flashlight in a way. Even if you were to move it side to side like this, the light would stay put. Now, I guess this could be a little upgrade from just the open flame. At least it's a little covered, but I would guess this probably wasn't a foolproof thing as well. But very, very handy. Um, I would like to light it and show you, but it is fire season and I don't want to cause any accidents. But if you're in your house, I recommend trying it out. All right, for the next one I want to show you, we're going to see it used later on. So, I mean, you'll see these guys used later on in the 1900s. This is a basic oil lamp. So I can show you here. You see the wick going all the way out through here. Kind of looks like a kettle in a way. Alright, so folks would actually use whale oil. Whale oil would be put into this compartment, and when they were ready, they would light the wick on fire. So here's when you kind of have to figure out, was this better, safer, more convenient? It probably was just as dangerous as a candlelight. However, you're not dealing with all those candlesticks, I'm guessing. Instead, they just have to have a little oil and be on their way. So I've seen people also wear these on their hats as well. Alright, so the next thing I want to show you is actually one of my favorites, and I'm excited that we have it. Alright, this here, well, it might be familiar to a lot of you who are into old-fashioned cars or cameras, or you've seen these in old movies. This is called a carbide lamp. Now, carbide lamp has to do with a little chemistry. Let me just take it apart so I can explain how do you work this thing. Alright. So you might notice that when you open it up, there's a little compartment here. Take a look. And what folks would do, instead of oil, they would light this, or fill it, with water. So water is a source that you can get pretty much anywhere, right? Hopefully. And they would, once they would fill up the water, they would put the top back on. It screws on pretty easily. And the next step was to open this tiny opening that also led to the same compartment. Or an upper chamber, I should say. And what would happen is that they would also put something called carbide rocks in here. I'll show you the can of carbide rocks. So carbide rocks are man-made rocks that are used specifically for lamps like this. Chemists came up with this, and they noticed when this rock is mixed with water, it creates a chemical reaction. And that chemical reaction produces a gas, and that gas is flammable. So the gas would move up here, and it would come out through this area where they would light it a flame, and the flame would reflect against the metal here and kind of makes a flashlight. So this is a really cool invention. I have another one to show you. Here's another neat one. And this one has a larger hook, so folks can even hold it, or they can hang it up as well. Alright, so I have one more thing to show you. It's probably the most interesting out of them all. Let me put this back. Alright. One, in my opinion, the craziest light invention used in mines is this right here. This is called the spinning wheel. Now, the spinning wheel was invented by this dude or man named Carlisle Spedding, and he actually was interested in finding ways to light up mines without necessarily using an open flame, because flames could be dangerous, which we talked about earlier. So he actually created this thing to make sparks. So this job had to be operated by a man or a child at all times for it to work. And the way they would do it is they would rest it on their arms. It has this padding here. and they would have to put the rock here. This is actually a flint that would make the spark, and they had to hold it together while also show you moving the wheel. Alright, so see how skillful I am at this. I'm not going to do it all the way, but I'm just enough to show you. Again, don't want to cause any sparks here. So this is how it works. So imagine someone doing this literally all shift long. That's what it takes to produce enough spark to light up a mine. And it'll be tiny little sparks that would come up, but it was a way that people can use light that won't harm them so much, they thought. I heard that there are still incidents despite not having open flame. So here's to the spinning wheel. I'll put this down. Alright, so I just showed you 4 of my favorite light tools that miners had. We still use mines today, even though they don't mine the same way that we did back in the 1800s. There still could be potential dangers to fuel our needs for energy. So I hope you learned a little bit more about Black Diamond Mines and you enjoyed looking at all the things in the archives. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye.